I change your bum life. You fight me, it's a celebration. When you sign to fight me, it's a celebration. You ring back home, you ring your wife. Baby, we done it. We're rich, baby. Conor McGregor made us rich. Break out the red panties.
Are you ready?
That goes in the files.
Are you ready? Let's get it all!
Yo, welcome back to the MMA Short Show. As always, your boy, Steven Moustaris. And guys, you know what? This one feels tough right now, honestly. If I had to be real with you guys, you know, I usually do some of these videos kind of just, you know, I've been around the sport for so long now, and I've been watching it, you know, and especially any sport, honestly. We can talk about NBA, NFL, MLB, you know, hockey. We can talk about anything, MMA, all these things. Even, you know, even other sports, like, you know, you guys can call it WWE. I used to watch it all the time when I was a kid, more so WCW. But, you know, over time, you start to realize that these greats that we've always watched and were heroes of ours and stuff, like, for me personally, there was like Kobe Bryant, Ken Griffey Jr., you know, Kevin Garnett. You know, you got a lot of these guys, Mike Vick type, you know, not after, you know, with the dog thing, you know, it's tough to say. But, you know, as an athlete, what they did on the field or on the court or whatever, and more so, you know, the older I get, you know, I love guys like John Jones, Max Holloway, all these certain guys that I love. And it's like, you know, you start to realize over time, like, these guys are always getting older too. You're getting older. It's like, you know, these guys, you think you take them for granted almost, kind of like LeBron right now, how this guy's doing it at almost 40 years old and still doing it, taking the Lakers to the playoffs and everything. So, you know, and then it's like we take them for granted. We start, you know, kind of overlooking them and just like not realizing what greatness they're doing. And, you know, it's kind of upsetting. So I always like to take my time and to really appreciate these guys while we have them. And it's a little different. This one hits home for me because it's one of my favorite fighters ever. And I just so happen to be going to Kansas City this weekend to watch him fight. So I'm pretty fucking geeked about that, traveling from Ohio to go see him just because he's one of my favorite fighters. And, you know, it's tough because Max Holloway's been around the UFC for so long. This guy was 19 years old when he made his debut at 2012. Like, literally first fucking fights against Dustin Poirier. Ever heard of him? Like, Jesus Lord. And I know it was an ugly night that night. He gets caught in it was like a mounted guillotine, or a mounted triangle, I should say, and like almost like an armbar. It was like everything was all at once, and it was pretty bad. And he was also getting his face punched in. So if you guys have ever watched that, it's a pretty vicious one, and I'll probably have it on the screen or something. But, you know, it's just kind of crazy to think it's already been 11 years since he's been in the UFC, let alone his career. Like, he's literally fought 26 UFC fights within 11 years, 10 years or whatever. It's about to be 27 fights. And, you know, he's had 30 MMA fights in his career. And the kid, I say kid because he's only like a year and a half older than me. I'm 29. I think he's 31. I think he just turned 31. And this is what's so mind-blowing. I know he's fighting Arnold Allen this weekend. And Arnold Allen's 29. I get it that the space isn't off. But, like, if we go back and look at Arnold Allen's career, I mean, when I went back to look, I was, like, kind of shocked at how long he's been in the UFC. You know, 2015, which is it's only 3 years after, you know, Max Holloway made his debut. But then we look and it's like, dude, he only had one fight. He's only had 10 UFC fights in 8 years. And, you know, I think for his first 6 years, or first 5 out of 6 years, I think he only fought one time a year. And then he finally gets 2 fights in, I think, in 2019. And then 1 fight every year since. And then I think last year he had 2 fights. So, and the competition compared to what Max Holloway isn't that high, but I get it. I know that they're trying to it feels like the old dog versus the young dog. And it feels like this is Arnold Allen's chance. And, you know, it's because it does kind of feel like, it's one of those fights. It could be scary for Max Holloway. You know, it's one of those. I still believe he's going to win. I still think all of his, you know, past experience, I think that's going to play a huge major part. And yeah, I know Arnold Allen right now is smoking everybody. You know, what he did to Calvin Kattar was pretty legit. I know Calvin Kattar kind of got that injury or whatever, but, you know, what he's done already is fucking phenomenal. Like the Dan Hooker fight, you know, I will talk about that a little bit just against Max Holloway, but like it was impressive how he took him out. And other than that, though, it's like, who has he fought? He's fought Nick Lentz, I think. He's fought, Sadiq Youssef. Like, no offense. I think he fought, like, an old-ass Gilbert Melendez, who, I mean, shouts out to Gil. He's one of the greatest fighters, like, I can't say ever, but, you know, one of the greatest Mexican fighters we've seen in MMA. And one of the greatest, like, I'm bringing a brawl, and he's been in some of the craziest fights you'll ever see. But it's like, not to be mean, that dude was getting, you know, he's at the end of his career. He's already had his success. Like, you know, and I think Makwan Amir Khani, I think was the other one. Like, okay, impressive, I guess, names. And yeah, you know, the Calvin Kattar fight, you could say, hey, look, Max Holloway did that, but at least Arnold Allen finished him. And, you know, look at what he did to Dan Hooker. And it's like, yeah, don't get me wrong, that shit is phenomenal. But if we go back and look, 10 fights in the UFC is nothing to Max Holloway. This guy literally did that in his first 3 years, fighting some of the craziest people you'll ever see. He fought 4 times his first year, fights twice his next year, and then fights 4 more times. And it's like in the next year, and it's like, damn, dude, there you go right there. That's 10 in 3 years. And then he rattles that off in another 3 years. And it's like, it's just the competition he's fought too is like why I'm getting scared and why it's like, these guys do get old. And these guys are, kind of at the end of their careers, not to be rude. Like I know he's 31, but that dude, we've seen guys, take some damage. And Max, even though he's got the most significant strikes ever landed in the UFC by like a large margin, margin, I should say. I'll put that up. I think he's literally, it's like double of number 2. And it's ridiculous. I think it's like Joanna or something's got almost like half of his significant strikes. But we also have to look at some of the damage this guy's taken. Like literally, like I said, he's fought Dustin Poirier twice, took some real damage in both of those fights. He's fought Volk 3 times. I mean, Jesus Lord, he fought Aldo twice, and although he absolutely smoked Aldo's still going to hit you. Fuck it. Dude, he fought the 155 champion, the ex-155 champion, beat the shit out of him, and Charles Oliveira. Ever heard of him? He just beat Yair Rodriguez. Ever heard of him? Champion right now, or at least, interim champion. Took a lot of damage that fight. Even though he kicked Calvin Kattar's ass, took a lot of damage that fight. Even though he beat the shit out of Brian Ortega, took some damage that fight. He's fought a guy like Cub Swanson. I think he took Ricardo Lamas' first loss. Dude's been fighting everybody in the book. You can name almost anybody. Jeremy Stevens, Anthony Pettis. Like, the dude has fought literally everyone. And that shit just doesn't go... Like, I know it's like the amount of success he's had in the UFC is absolutely ridiculous. That's why some of our favorite fighters, like, the guy fights so much. And he's been so active. But it's like, dude, we all kind of start seeing people start to mumble. We start to see cases of like, oh shit, like he's starting to get like his last Volkanovski fight. You could say that he was kind of slipping, which kind of looked like it maybe a little bit, but you could also say, okay, Volkanovski completely had the right game plan. And even though I thought Max might have won the first 2 fights, he definitely got his ass beat in that last 3rd fight. And I actually have the poster way above me. So, I mean, I wouldn't move my camera, but I'll probably fuck it up. But, it's like, that was probably one of the hardest nights of my life that I ever had to deal with. But it's just like, guys, I still have all the faith in the world that he can beat an Arnold Allen. But I'm just like, this is just getting to it, especially if I'm going. Like, if I'm about to see my boy fight for the first time ever, like, I'm really hoping he can do it. And it does kind of feel like one of those fights that, it's like, yeah, it's like a Calvin Kattar type thing or Brian Ortega coming in. Like, I know Arnold Allen's got the strength, but it's like, you guys remember Brian Ortega's ground game, like, always going to get him down. He's going to submit him. What happened that fight? Got his face broken off because he couldn't take him down or nothing. He couldn't submit him. Couldn't do anything. Look at Calvin Kattar. Yeah, he landed some big shots, but Max was absolutely smoking his ass all night. Like, he was doing so many things to so many people. He's done it time in, time out. I mean, like, goodness gracious. Like, he's fought everybody. I don't know if I mentioned he fought Conor too. Like, he's done it all. He's literally done it all. And if you go back and look at his career, it's just crazy. And now we're at a weird spot now. It's like, this is what I'm kind of worried about. This is why it might be getting to an end. Even if he beats an Arnold Allen, like, really, what's out there for him? Like, yeah, best case, Yair Rodriguez beats a Volkanovski, and Max already has a win over Yair. So, okay, so what are we going to get now? Is it Max versus Yair, maybe for the belt? It's tough to say that to give him that 4th fight against Volk, but it's like, I mean, we kind of just saw Alex Pereira and Adesanya kind of just do it, and I get it, it's not MMA, but it's like those fights were closer between Max Holloway and Volk in those first 2 fights than any of the fights were with Alex Pereira and Izzy. So it's like, maybe that's there. And I know Max wants it, but it's like, still though, after those 2 fights, like, what's there left? Is he still just going to keep fighting these up and coming killers? Like, that's not going to be a safe play for the longevity. I know he's got his kid Rush, who's, getting older. He looks like he's finally settled down with a lady. He looks like he's happy with, looks like he's about to get married. If he's not married already, like, this man's got so much more out of life. And if we're being honest here too, the other scary thing is like, I mean, I'm trying not to see it. I try to make it look like, oh, I just don't think of it. It's not there, but it's like, we got to be true here. Even if we're the biggest Max Holloway fans like me, like, he's in my fucking intro, like his fucking screensaver, him pointing at Calvin Kattar is my background on my computer right there. It's like, we do have to be honest though. He's been mumbling crazy. He's starting to get like kind of that like mushy brain, almost kind of like a Stipe Miocic type thing. And it's sad to see because it's like, dude, 30 fights in MMA, and not just 30 fights in MMA, 26 of them in the UFC. And I just named how many people that he fought that are killers, way more than we've had to see Arnold Allen go through. And it's, dude, that shit's going to add up no matter how great you look and everything. And it's like my favorite thing I always tell people, like all my friends I try to explain it to, like, if you're going to be a striker in the UFC or in MMA in general, like, yeah, you're going to have a higher chance of becoming a bigger name because you can knock people out, especially if you become a knockout artist or if you just put on great performances like a Max Holloway has done. But if you want longevity, you're going to want to be like that Habib, like the grapplers that we've seen, like, the Kamaru Usmans, we can go on for days, Cain Velasquez, we can go for days and days about him. GSP turned into a grappler. You know, like that's the way you're going to have longevity in this game. But that's the thing with Max is like it's going to catch up to you. So I just want us as fans to just really understand like we might be coming down to our last couple fights. It's literally the same thing I've said about RDA. Same thing I said about Frank Yeager. Same thing I said about Donald Cerrone. Same thing I just said about Jorge Masvidal a couple months ago before his fight. You guys can watch the video. Like I was really worried that we're coming down. It's not the fact that I don't think they have it left in them. It's like, what more can they do in such a successful career? Like he's tried to get his double champion. And we can't remember the thing with Habib too, why he didn't get in there. It was really weird, like how he was either like he was almost on the death's door from cutting so much weight, or it looked like he was really bad concussed. Like those things add up to you, and they add on to that career. And I know again he's only 31 years old, but his career spoke for itself. Like that shit's more like a 50-year-old in there, not to be funny here. And things are going to start crumbling down, or maybe not crumbling down, but it's starting to come to an end where it's like, how many fights do I have left? What is there out there for me to be excited for? So, like, I can't believe he took an Arnold Allen fight, to be honest. But this is why I love Max. He just in there at all times. So I'll be at Kansas City this weekend, and I'll be screaming my little head off, and I'll be trying to do everything in the world to give him to make it feel like I'm helping him win in there. But at the end of the day, we are coming down to the end. This is starting to get down to the end of the game for him, and it's like, maybe he does fight till he's 35. We got 4 more years in it, but how many fights is that left? Maybe he sits out a year. The UFC is starting to pick and choose when you start getting that big name like a Max Holloway. Like, you're not fighting 4 times in a year anymore. It's like, no, you're fighting 1 time, see how that goes. Maybe twice if we got a good matchup, but guess what? If not, you're sitting a whole extra year. We see it all the time. They ice people. Like Hamzat was fighting 5 times a fucking year. Look, the dude's not even fighting right now. He's got to fight in October for the first time in a year and a half after he absolutely smoked Kevin Holland. So it's like, what are we doing here? So, as always, your boy Steven Moustaris, and seriously, guys, let's appreciate these guys while we got them. We're getting down to the edge. We're getting down to the end of the line. So, let's get it, baby. As always, your boy Steven Moustaris, and let's go.